Call recording is on for everybody who's happened to sleep through this particular webinar, especially those in Alberta, 6 a.m. out there. Time change is not my invention, but it has its uses when you're traveling from Manitoba to Saskatchewan. You've got to be there at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning. We're going to get rolling here with our weekly dealer webinar. It's December 1st, 2017. All those lovely monthly bills roll around, and we're all starting to think about Christmas, even though the Santa Claus parade was like November 6th in Brandon. But Lord knows from a marketing perspective, we need to start our holidays 2 months early. How am I sounding, Terry?
Good.
Perfect. This is your one accolade we have to give to Terry. He's been super consistent in attending all these dealer webinars, so he's very familiar with the agenda here. Today we're going to talk about our usual stuff. We'll talk a little bit about the scoreboard. We'll talk about safety first, of course. We'll talk about upcoming events. We've got Farm Forum next week, and we've got a little bit of sales training, just something for you to chew on. And we have a special guest, Terry Aberhart, who's going to walk us through his experience with FileSol, how they've been applying it for his clients and his own farm since 2015, how he got involved, how they work it into their cropping rotation, and one of the more interesting aspects I'd like to see develop long-term regarding this product is the variable rate aspect, which Terry is a veritable ninja in, and I don't know if everybody realizes, but Terry is a big part of developing the entire precision management process, bringing Precision Ag to the AgriTrend network initially, and it grew and fostered from there under the tutelage of Warren Bills and Chris Patterson and guys like that. But Terry is one of the original guys that that put some of the pieces together in his community, and has been a huge advocate of precision technology, as you'll see from his mind map, which sort of looks like the inside of like a Google server. You're the only one on the call that's able to laugh, Terry, so it's good if you could provide a little bit of a laugh track to my jokes.
All right.
So the first thing that we want to talk about every time we engage in any kind of discussion at a corporate level, given one of our core values, safety, is safety. And since we have a special guest on the line who operates a large farm with lots of moving pieces and lots of people, also has a trusted applicator business that practices safety, do you have a safety concept or a safety story to share with the masses this morning for us, Terry?
I do, actually. It's funny that you mentioned that. But yeah, no, I mean, safety is kind of one of those things that's obviously really important, but I think, you know, maybe on the farm and stuff, it's not something that that we maybe think of firsthand or take as seriously as we should sometimes. And I guess for me, one of the things that really opened my eyes up a little bit was a couple of years ago I went to a program called TPAP down at Texas AMU. So it's called the Executive Program for Agricultural Producers. It's a fantastic course. 1 week. There's two years, a first year and a second year. But anyways, we went down there a couple of years ago. There's probably 90 different farms and farm businesses all over the U.S., Canada, a couple from Brazil and Australia. But we got into talking about SOPs and safety and things like that. And the instructor on that section asked the group to raise their hands, whoever had someone die on their watch or in their operation. And about 10% of the room put their hands up, which for me was pretty eye-opening and a bit shocking to think that 1 out of every 10 businesses or more has had someone, you know, die working in their business or in some kind of accident or whatever it may be. And so I think that really made me realize that yeah, it's a big thing, and obviously you want to protect your people and your business, and so that's just one of the things that kind of spurred us on to thinking about this a bit more, and then obviously working along with with the guys in BioCycle here, and I mean they take that as a really high priority, which I appreciate. And when you talk to the safety officers like Calvin and stuff, I've had a couple great conversations with him, and they've had to knock on people's doors to tell them, their husband or son or whoever it is isn't coming home today. So I mean, that's obviously something that nobody would ever want to have happen in their business, and that's why we want to keep this as a top priority.
Thanks for sharing that, Terry, and yeah, that's powerful stuff. The people that we're moving product for today, the people that are managing the business out of Okotoks and Calgary, have had that experience a number of times where they've had somebody in their organization lose their life, and they're focused on safety, and it's not only a loss of life issue, it affects the organization in a functional and financial respect as well. So that's a great story in farming, and spreading is one of the more dangerous business. The volume sucks. Is the volume low, Elston?
I think you're all right on my end.
Okay. I don't want to say it, maybe Elston, but does your volume suck, or is it our volume sucking? Just a technical question. Text me. Talk to me. You can star 6, Elston, if you want to jump in on the fray as our alternate special guest.
The volume sucks at my end, dude.
Okay. Well, it is sounding pretty good to me on my phone, and hopefully it's good for the listeners out there. Welcome as well, Elston. So we've got our scoreboard update. It's been a pretty incredible run the last month. If you couple what we've organically sold and physically moved across the pad to what we have forward sold in the dealer network, there was extraordinary response from our dealer network. I'm really proud of everybody that stepped up. Okay, I'm getting messages here from Graham that me and Terry are fine. Okay, good to know. Anytime there's audio-visual issues, please let me know. It's been quite a visceral response from the dealer network and the customers out there. I haven't done all the math yet, but it looks like we're at 300,000 acres sold in this fiscal year, May to May, and want to continue to grow that into the spring. So thanks everybody for their early orders and the work that's been done with customers, and there's lots more work to do, but it's pretty positive at this stage where we're at for growth in the network, so thank you. Early order pricing. We did have our early order program. We talked about that a lot at length in the last couple of weeks. We are back to our standard rhythm, of course subject to change, but we have been attempting to run this early order pricing program to the advantage of mankind, hopefully, in Saskatchewan and Manitoba. And so December we're starting out at $265, and then we'll have our $5 a ton increase per month. It's something that we're in discussion on, and we would like feedback from the dealer network, is how much do you guys want us to be publishing this early order pricing to the public? And I think as time goes on and we look to evolve our model to a more sophisticated, streamlined, normalized business, is manufacturer, distributor, manufacturer, supplier, whatever you want to call it, retailer, I don't know that we will be publishing it to the extent that we have been, simply for the fact that we'll probably give our dealers more latitude as they want to manage their own early order programs, buying programs, and how they want to manage their customer base. So we're open to feedback, how this works for you. I know on Twitter the other day I got some feedback from Danny Ogbright on Twitter that was one of his favorite things about BioSol, that he could see the price on our website, but I think we'll probably move a little bit more away from full disclosure to that degree, just by virtue of the fact we want to have the dealers handle that to their customers in terms of sensitivity. One thing that came out of the early order is the recognition that we have to manage customers' expectations when it comes to perhaps selling them something at $280, $285 late in the year, and then if there's an early order program that comes on, we got to be a little bit sensitive about going back to them with a price like $255, for example, so as not to ruffle any feathers as such. So one of the things that I want to mention and bring to your attention is the fact that we have brought on an account manager by the name of Bob Delpart in Regina, Saskatchewan, who's got a tremendous amount of experience. This is not actually a photo of him. This is a stock photo, but I did not have a good photo of Bob. But he'll be joining us at the Farm Forum next week, and I'm very excited about Bob on a number of fronts, just for the fact that he's got 25 years of experience with Univar. He was with them when they had $100,000 in revenue, all the way to when they had $110 million in revenue, which I hope that we will be there one day. That's kind of our 10-year goal, get somewhere around there and become that distributor. But he's got a lot of experience. He's got a lot of contacts, and he knows a lot of people, right from the higher level guys to the retail network to working with customers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're excited to have Bob come on board and help build our business. Look at this guy. Oh, and he looks good here, but he's looking even better. I guess the Movember is coming off before Farm Forum, no hay or what? Elston Solberg. It's going to be a really good event. Look at that facility. Next week is Farm Forum, 17. We're going to be there.
Yeah, the mustache is off, Dano. The mustache is off already.
Oh, boy. That must change the dynamics of your social life a bit, eh?
Hopefully for the better, yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's pretty good now, so it can only get better, right?
Onward, upward, better and better, dude.
So it's really fun. It's a really special event, and we've got a number of presentations there. We've got, we're going to be tagging along in BioCycle Solutions booth there. And during the event, we're going to have an interview with American Farmer TV, which is going to be distributed to like 60 million farmers or 60 million people in the States on television over time, 50 states. And it's going to be a really well-produced piece, really professionally produced piece. It's going to have Neil Weens as the mad scientist inventor, Don Francis as the corporate block and tackler, Elston Solberg as the resident sulfur wizard, and Terry Eberhardt as the nice guy farmer, agronomist guy. And so those four are going to tell the story, and it's going to be pretty cool. Also, we're going to have the Price is Right style game show for the Sulfur is Right. And we're going to have a series, my vision is we're going to have a series of 4 games based on price, logistics, agronomy, and sustainability. And we're going to have 4 sets of contestants that can win prizes and help tell the story of the product. And it's going to be highly interactive. It's going to be super fun. I wanted to expense like a corduroy suit or something to that effect, and I've been watching Bob Barker's moves, but I can tell you one thing. The times have changed, because you watch Bob Barker on The Price is Right. All I'm going to say, for fear of any sort of HR implications in this life, is times have changed. Woo! Anyways, I'll be the politically correct game host next week. Extremely politically correct. Hopefully there's still parameters within which I'll have, I can move and have some wit, but that is going to be a lot of fun. And Elston's going to help me out with that, and Neil, and maybe Terry, and the gang. So you guys are all invited on Tuesday, December 5th, 2017 for visibly touring the BioCycle Sustainability Loop, where you go and see the depackaging facility. That's a big deal. That's something that hits you right in the gut and brings a little tear to your eye and what we're doing, and really gets you excited about that whole concept. So I'm just going to drill in here with the use of technology. It's called Zoom. I hope you guys enjoy it. The what, why, when, and where. So it's at, we're going to be going from where the facility is being held, the Calgary TELUS Convention Center, traveling from there to the BioCycle Transfer Station, the Big Rock Brewery, and then back. And the reason is that it's cool to see and fun to be with people. And the when is 1 to 5 on Tuesday, December 5th. And the where is all what I said there. It's all in the details. So if you haven't RSVP'd, you should RSVP. If you can get any of your customers there, I'm telling you, that's a much easier sell once we've had that tour. Credit card fees are not going to be gratuitous from Eberhard Ag after the new year. I've just been reminding that everybody every webinar so we don't get caught on the wrong side of that. We've had an increase in temperatures, and we are getting some spreading activity going on, and that is a great thing, and we want to support you in any of your efforts. If you have any product to get moved, talk to Graham. There's still lots of products at Regina that could go out in fields if you're able to get it on, but we all know that's a bit of a challenge. What do you think of the dealer webinar so far, Terry? Anything to add on the Eberhard Ag Solutions side?
I think you got it covered.
Sweet. Okay. Well, I'm very pleased to have on the line with me today special guest near and dear to my heart. His name is Terry Eberhard, and we've been brothers a long time. Most of my life. There was 2 years where I sort of had mom and dad all myself, and then my reality was shattered when Terry came along. Sort of split the difference and split the parental attention. But he's a pretty special guy. He's done a lot of amazing things in the industry. He's built one hell of a farm up. The family farm has just absolutely transformed under his care to a 14,000-acre farm with an extraordinary team. And he's a well-known and respected agronomist, and he's done a great job of servicing a large client base and scaling an agronomy business, which is a feat unto itself. And of course, he's involved with so that I should say that's Eberhard Farms and Sure Growth Technologies, affiliated with Agritrend. And of course, he was the fellow who essentially brought this product to Eberhard Ag Solutions, which at the time we had some internal debate between ourselves and Harvey whether we should call it Eberhard and Sons, but it ultimately became Eberhard Ag Solutions, and we stole our slogan from Terry's vision, which is growing our future. We took it and we made it into growing your future as a service company. But I was just thinking yesterday how amazing it is to have a younger brother so accomplished that I can phone with all of our challenges in this business and have great teamwork going on and lead on his experience. And really our journey in Eberhard Ag Solutions has been incredibly accelerated, as everybody, I guess, has witnessed. And one of the things that's really worked well for us is the existing infrastructure that we had in place, be it advisors, be it lawyers, be it accountants, be it staff tools and standard operating procedures, and that's really what helped Eberhard Ag Solutions grow, is the template and business that Terry's built over 20 years. Building the team and working with Dad. And I think his story when it comes to Biosol is one of the more authentic ones that you guys are really going to enjoy. But this webinar and any presentation, and whenever I talk about my brother, wouldn't be complete if I didn't punk him a little bit. And I think one of the things that people don't necessarily know about Terry is that he's actually quite an accomplished drummer, and we played in the band for quite a while. And I've got a collection of photos here that represent some of his different moods that we experienced with him in the band over the years. So the first look we have here is the playful drummer look, where he's fooling around a bit, he's feeling good, he's enjoying himself in the studio. This is when we were making our album. This is the studious. I misspelled that. I got to go back here. Sorry. It says studios, but I'm supposed to. What I wanted to say. I mean, I make these webinars before I come on them, but it's like a studious drummer look. Like it's a look of concentration and care for one's craft, trying to get things right. It's a look of zen, of concentration. It's an artist in his zone. It's truly a beautiful thing to behold. Here we have the athletic drummer look, where he's getting into, probably a stronger part of the song, and he's exerting himself physically. And here we have sort of a look of maybe not getting paid enough drummer look, where he's a little bit tired and maybe wants just to go home at this point, but he's still got a few tracks to finish. And then we have the trying to stay in time really hard so Danny doesn't yell at me drummer look. That's where you have to concentrate to a very extreme level to execute difficult parts of the song. Terry also have like a bit of an emo drummer look. He's really into it. He's really feeling it. He's maybe thinking about past situations or whatever that have a lot of depth of emotion for him that he's using to bring into the music and emote into the music. And then finally we have the playing for all the little children around the world drummer look, and this is taps into Terry's giving back theme and core value in his life, and you can see how much he cares by the look on his face when he's drumming. So brothers, you just have to punk one another, and I'm sure mine will be coming someday. But I'm going to put this slide at the end, these two slides, and I'm going to let Terry get into his presentation. How do you like that, Terry?
That was pretty interesting. Very, very interesting, yeah. Quite the introduction.
Yeah. Oh, that's my duty. My rock and roll duty to punk your little brother. And you're also obligated to tell one story about why it was so cool growing up with me. I think you saw that in the highlights, so I hope you thought of something cool.
We'll get to that at the end.
Okay, I have talked way too long. People aren't that interested in what I have to say. If you've seen him on social media, if you've seen him live, if you've ever heard him speak, if you've driven in a half ton with him and looked at crops, you know he's an exceptional dude. I'm going to hand this webinar over now to my younger brother, Terry Eberhard. Take it away.
Sure, thanks, Dan. So, yeah, looking forward to just sharing some ideas, I guess, some thoughts about biosol and sulfur and agronomy, precision ag, and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, let's jump to the next slide here.
Are you getting that?
Yeah, just a bit of a time delay. So this is just a picture, for those who don't know me, of me and my wonderful family. My wife, Lachelle, and daughters, Sarah and Aisla and Holden. We can flip ahead. And this is just a photo of the farm for those of you that are interested in that kind of stuff. And as Dan mentioned, we've been operating Eberhard Farms here with my wife and father, Harvey, and mother, Debbie. And we also operate the consulting business out of the office and the farm, and then most recently worked with Dan to get the Eberhard Ag Solutions going. So we can flip ahead. Yeah, so today just kind of sharing a few things about what we've learned, I guess, and what's working, and I guess kind of what we're working towards in the future. And yeah, so the elemental sulfur train, why we are on it and why you should be on it too. So I think I'm just going to share with you some thoughts about elemental sulfur. We've been evolving towards elemental sulfur for quite a few years, even before biosol came along, but I think it's a great product, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts with you why, so we can flip ahead there. Yeah, so you'll hear this a lot. This tagline came from one of Tiger's marketing campaigns a long time ago, every crop, every year. And I think one of the things is a lot of people out there think that you only maybe need sulfur on canola crops, but all the crops needed, and it's needed for amino acids, protein development, oil content in your oil seeds. But sulfur improves nitrogen uptake and utilization. I think we're also starting to learn that sulfur has benefits, maybe beneficial, or biosol anyways, has some beneficial impact on uptake of other nutrients and things like disease and in potatoes and things like that. So you can just keep moving ahead there. Yeah, so this is just an example actually that came across our Agatrend network a few years ago. A coach had sent this from North Dakota, had sent this tissue test in on some hard red wheat. So maybe winter wheat, I guess maybe this is a crop that guys wouldn't normally look at putting sulfur on. But you can see there was an issue with the field, or concern, I guess, and the sulfur levels were quite low, as you can see in this tissue test. So if you want to just jump ahead there. And so the comments were from the network, of course. Well, it looks like you're low on sulfur. Maybe you should go try and put some on or spread some on. So they went out there, and I can't remember how many pounds they spread, but within a couple weeks after the application and maybe a rain, you can see the pretty dramatic difference in the crop from either side here. So obviously the lighter yellow is actually sulfur deficiency, which maybe some would think initially would be nitrogen, but you can see it's a pretty dramatic difference here on a cereal crop, and so I think you can just skip ahead now.
And was it not true, there was a story that sulfur deficiency was something that led you to your journey in Agritrend there? Do you remember that story you told me?
Well, I'm not sure that story, but yeah, I mean, the thing that kind of initially led me to Agritrend was starting to take some tissue tests with absolutely no knowledge of what that meant, but we realized that with higher nitrogen applications, we weren't actually getting more yield like we would expect, and kind of got on a journey of that we're probably, there's some other nutrients that we're not realizing are in balance or limiting us. So the thing that I really like about elemental sulfur as a whole is there's just lower risk of loss. So I mean, that's something that's out there and a concern with products like ammonium sulfate. And so with the slow release of elemental sulfur, you're just protected there, and I really like that aspect of it. It's a bit of an environmental thing as well. I like the season-long release, so when you have larger crop potential, this elemental sulfur is releasing throughout the year, and so you keep that crop being fed as demand increases throughout the year. So that's something that's a real advantage, I think. In my mind, the elemental sulfur really is much in harmony with Mother Nature, and so as you have increased yield potential, normally you have good moisture conditions, you're going to have increased microbial activity in the soil along with that potential, and so the elemental sulfur will release at a higher rate in those conditions. So the thing that I really like about elemental sulfur is if you're in a drought or really saturated soil conditions, anaerobic soil conditions, there's really going to be very little release of the sulfur, and the crop isn't going to need it because it's not growing properly. And then when you have those really good growing conditions, it'll release more, and so it's there when you need it. And we've kind of seen that in our agronomy business and through tissue testing with our clients, how the elemental sulfur programs and the biosol programs are staying strong throughout the year. So you can skip ahead there. And yeah, it helps increase the soil microbial activity, and this was true even with products with Tiger 90, but I do believe, and I think there's a strong consensus that the additional bugs and microbial activity in the compost portion of the biosol is enhancing that to another level yet with what's going on in your soil there. So this is just some tissue tests from one of the clients that we work with, comparing. This is one of the things that we started to evolve to. An S15 came out. It's a great product blended with phosphate and ammonium sulfate and elemental all together in one prill. So a lot of guys, we were moving to an S15 with a top-up of ammonium sulfate. But one of the things that this is one of the issues that we notice, that a lot of times these programs were showing running out of sulfur later in the year when yield conditions were really good. So this is just an example, and this probably would be a total of 25 to 30 pounds of total sulfur in that year. So it's a pretty good rates of sulfur, but still showing lower sulfur levels in the tissues and pretty poor N-S ratios. We can skip ahead. So this is same year, canola crops in the area, applied with biosol actually on June 8th. So this is after seeding. Once the crop is already up and we can see our tissues are super strong and S ratios are really good, and this is just something we've seen over and over and over again with this program and using elemental sulfur. So we can skip ahead there. Another big thing for me and on the farm and with our clients is logistics. So we do a lot of variable rate, and we're covering a lot of acres. I think that's one of the things a lot of the clients that we work with as well are large acres and looking for efficiencies. And so this is something that we can take out of the tank. We can simplify our VR programs. We can increase our seeding efficiency. We can keep skipping ahead here as we talk. So that's a big deal. Obviously, we know every day later you seed wheat, you're possibly giving up a bushel of yield potential. Getting that in the ground is important. You reduce the seed safety concerns with fertilizer toxicity in the seed row. You take that right out of the equation with spreading elemental sulfur. You can just reduce equipment issues. So we all probably experienced at some point the joys of unplugging lines and gummed up manifolds with ammonium sulfate in higher moisture conditions at seeding time, or if you're trying to seed 24 hours through the night and stuff like that, that causes some real issues with sulfur blends, ammonium sulfate sulfur blends. And just less need for storage. I mean, one of the neat things about this product as well is that you don't need the traditional bin storage for it, and or if you apply it to the field and you've got sulfur for 4 or 5 years, it frees up. Ammonium sulfate especially is just really bulky and takes up a lot of room. So, and yeah, I think one of the other overall things that has really attracted us to Biosol on the farm is just looking at what we're trying to grow for crops, the nutrient removal, and just trying to get the right amount of nutrients down so we're not mining our soils. And this is just an example here that maybe the writing's a little bit hard to see, but this is on a 5,000 acre farm that we were working with and 2,500 acres of canola. We just kind of compared what it would look like for the total blend that we would need in cost if we were using an S15 and ammonium sulfate program compared to using Biosol. And on average, we were $11 an acre cheaper going to the Biosol across kind of a 5-year term, and we're looking at 55 pounds less an acre in the drill blend. So not only are we saving money in this case, but we're also reducing the amount of product that needed to go through the drill. So we can skip ahead there. So this is just, people are always kind of asking about tissue tests. So this is a shout out to Lloyd here. He was bugging me about the 2017 tissue test results. And so this is on some land now this is onto the third crop of biocycle application. So there was a hemp crop and a canola crop, and then the third year here was wheat on this particular field. And so you can see sulfur levels are really strong. One thing we like to do, we can skip ahead here, one thing we like to do is take multiple tissue tests in the same field throughout the year to prove that we have consistent supply. So this is the same field. The first one was at probably the 5 or 6 leaf stage. This is at flag leaf. You could see that sulfur levels are still strong above the range where we want them to be. And then if we skip ahead to the last one on this field, this is that heading. We can see sulfur levels are still really strong and holding through. So this gives us a lot of confidence that we're going to be good for the next year here, and so that's good. So this is on the wheat crop on the third year, and then if we skip ahead one more, I got a couple different examples from, so this is a canola crop. So this land, same thing, was spread 3 years ago. This is the third crop. As we can see, great sulfur levels here. This particular field, maybe a little near the lower end on the nitrogen, but that's fine. This field still ran 50 bushels an acre, which was pretty good for this area. And then the last one here is same thing, just another field where it's on the third year. Strong canola crops grown here, and really strong sulfur levels. So I think that's one of the things. We've just had a lot of confidence in elemental sulfur, and especially the biosol. I could show you 60 tissue tests from this year across our whole farm at all different times and all different crops, and every one of them is got great sulfur levels. And so that's one of the things that I like about this program and this product is you can just put it on and you're good. And so you just focus on the other things. And of course, the thing that makes this most unique is the sustainability part of that. There is very, very few products, if any, that we can use in a conventional farm that have this kind of recycled aspect to it. I think it's a great story, and in all honesty, that's the reason why we joined up with Dan to get involved with this, because we get exposed, like most farmers do, to a lot of different products and different opportunities, but this was one that was really unique. I love that side of it. I just think that we need to look for more solutions like that as we go forward. And so for me, and agronomy and farming, elemental sulfur is pretty much a no-brainer. So something that requires or involves little or no mental effort. I think it's an easy decision to make. This is the way we approach this on our farm and the consulting business as well. I think we can keep skipping ahead there. And yeah, so I just realized that I don't know if anybody caught that there, but I realized the slide with the guy face palming his head there looks very similar to Kelly Manacle. Maybe that was earlier in his modeling career, I'm not sure, but I'm sure many of you in the network know Kelly, and I kind of saw that last night. I was looking at
Well, and I know the weird thing is I know exactly how to caption that. It's like, how do I get to 120 feet? It's the agri spread. With Harvey Abraham on his farm.
This is
exactly what he's thinking.
Shout out to Kelly there. So anyways,
thanks for all your hard
move
work
on from there.
We just did a presentation with Kelly the other day, and big proponents of biocell and bringing spread into the world. So carry on.
Yeah, so just to share a couple things, other crazy things with you. This is just a bit of a mind map I made a few years ago showing all the things that we have to manage on the farm between the data, the marketing, inventory, mapping and GIS layers, the weather, all the business management stuff. And so there's a lot of things that we have to manage today as farmers and in the business. And so I think we can skip ahead here. As most people look at this, they probably have a feeling that looks like this, and a lot of times we feel overwhelmed with data and technology, but the reality is there's a lot of great tools out there once you learn to use them. And this is just some examples of a lot of the data that we manage within the Trimble Ag business software, formerly AgriData. And one of the things through the agronomy work that we do too, I mean, we're tracking our nutrient levels over time. We can see if we're increasing or mining the soil attributes. We can record field trials where they are in the app, and we don't need to flag anything. We can just bring that up on our phone and walk across the field and see the different areas. The bottom graph here is just a chart of all the nitrogen levels with all the variable rate zones on the field. So we can bring up some reports where we can show the total nitrogen left in the soil across the whole farm, and we can compare that on average to what we had last year. And so very quickly we can make decisions about maybe how much nitrogen we need to buy for next year, looking at what the average is left over in the soil. We're tracking inventory now as well with Agromatics, and we have all our grain contracts in the system, and so we can see, click on a bin, we can see how full it is, we can see where each load from the bin or all the fields that went into the bin, and then also apply those to different contracts and stuff. So there's a lot of things that we can do, and we are doing with that software to really simplify the management of the farm. It does take a bit of work to get into that system, but once we have it up and rolling, it's been pretty awesome. So we can skip ahead here. One of the things that's been really cool that's come out recently with technology is this premium weather. And so what this is just it uses radar, rain data as well as other data, and it's a company out of the States that takes this data in and massages it, I guess, uses its algorithms to improve it. And so this is just an example of, that first one I think was an example of heat units. And so we can see that throughout the year, even on our farm here in the map below, there was a range of about, the difference in about 200 points in heat units. And so if we're looking at growing a crop like soybeans, we're definitely going to want to put that in the area of the farm, kind of the south area there that has that 1,500 of heat units versus the 1,350 in some parts of the field. So it's interesting, maybe not things that you would necessarily think of from one side of your farm to another, but as we look at more corn and soybeans in the future here, I think that's pretty important. This rainfall map here, so this is what I was mentioning. The app takes the radar data and creates a map of rainfall. And so instead of having a weather station at every field, this will show you a map of the rainfall distribution. And if you do have good radar data, which most of the radars in Canada now are actually getting upgraded in the next year or so here, which will be really good, but it is really quite accurate. So you can see the difference in this rainfall event from nothing up to almost 2 inches in places, and there usually is quite a bit of discrepancy in the rainfall amount. So you can skip ahead here. I think I got another example. So this is an example a year or so ago where there's a little kind of strip at an angle through the middle where the farm actually is. We had a rain event, and so a mile south of the farm we had 1/2 inch to 1 inch. The road was wet. You get to the farm and there was dust flying, and then you get north again and there was nothing. And so I went and kind of ground truth this a bit, and it was just really accurate. The area that showed no rain had no rain at all. It was only about a mile, 1/2 a mile wide. And the guys in Langeberg were talking about 1/2 inch of rain in the rain gauge, and then there was a farmyard just a mile outside of Langeberg there where you can see in the green, and he had mentioned that he had 1 inch of rain in his rain gauge, which is shown on this map here quite accurately. So it's just, I think it's some pretty cool technology. Yeah, you can skip ahead there if you want. And this will actually break down, you know, how differences in rainfall even on a field from one corner to another. And so even though it may not be accurate all the time in every situation, I think there's no way you could get more accuracy on every field across your farm without actually having to have a physical rain station or weather station there. So it's pretty cool technology. I think it's $300 a year for your whole farm. So if it saves you one trip driving to one end of the farm to another, it's a big deal. So just getting into the variable rate side of things, this is touching on a few things here. This is something that's we're big into. I'll maybe just I'll comment on the sulfur things near the end here, so we can just skip ahead. So I mean, variable rate, it pays, especially if you have a strong agronomic program behind it. So, I mean, there's been some discussion here lately is you can have, you know, nutrients applied with precision, but maybe there isn't the agronomy behind that. And so we want to have strong agronomy applied precisely with how we approach things. And so this is just an example a few years ago where, if you just go back to that chart there, where we did a variable rate trial, and we did variable rate, which was an average of 88 pounds a N, compared to 100 pounds flat rate, 130 pounds, and 160 pounds. And the real interesting thing in this scenario was we applied, this was a wheat crop, we applied fungicide at flag and again heading, so 2 fungicide applications because we knew we were going to have increased disease pressure with the higher nitrogen rates, and we wanted to make sure we protected that crop. But it's really interesting to see as we went to those very high rates, we had increased lodging, increased disease, even with those applications of fungicide, and we actually reduced the yield. So not only did we spend twice the amount of money on nitrogen on the 160 pounds a N, we actually lost almost 10 bushels, not quite, but lost a lot of yield there. And so obviously the economics of that look really poor. And so I think that's one thing that's we really need to think about as we move forward, is a lot of growers out there are looking for extra yield, and if they're just turning up the dial on the nitrogen tap, I think we could be causing more harm than good, but we can skip ahead here now. And so with a strong program, this is the type of stuff that you'll see, and this is, got to give credit to Daniel Bunkowski. He's one of the guys in our network here and somebody that we work with agronomy, but it's, when things are done right, we normally see very even crops, and it is sometimes really surprising to see a crop that looks as good and as even as it is when you know there's anywhere from 30 pounds to 130 pounds applied to that field, but it looks like a tabletop. So that's kind of some of the results we see. Other programs that have been pretty successful for us is on-off or variable rate fungicide application. The map on the left, I guess, shows just where we actually did flat rate fungicide applications, but what we did is we compared the yield in the green zones, which is the best, to the medium zones in the yellow, and the poor yielding zones in the red. And so in the higher yielding zones of the field, we had 6 to 7 bushel yield response to the fungicide application. Those areas were basically over 40 bushels. And anything in the red, which was kind of 35 bushels and less, or 30 bushels and less, had 0 response to the fungicide application. So this really is the way a lot of our fields look like in our area, and there's probably 25 to 30% will not respond to fungicide application in canola because of the thinner stand. And so this is a program that Warren Bills and I helped kind of put together and test when Warren was with Agritrend, and then he moved on to the Bayer Digital Farming crew, and they started replicating this program, which now is kind of being released to the growers. And their research essentially on this graph on the right shows the same thing, where they're seeing good yield responses in the heavier biomass areas of the field. In the lower areas, which would be 1 and 2, they're seeing no response at all. So yeah, we can skip ahead there. So that's just pretty cool to see some of that going to a larger scale there. So this is just an example of a yield map and a profitability map on the farm. And so this is kind of where the rubber hits the road. The report card for the year. So normally the report cards I used to get that you had to take home and get your mom and dad signed, you weren't quite so excited about most times, I think, from what I can remember. But this is a report card for the farm, and we can see how many what's our cost of unit production is per bushel for each zone based on our total costs and what we put on for nutrients there. And so this is some stuff that we work with quite a bit with our clients and our farm to help determine where the value is. We can skip ahead here. And where this kind of turns into then is the profitability map, and we can see what areas we're making money, and then also there could be some areas where we're actually losing money in the fields. And so this started kind of leading us down a path of recognizing that some of these areas we're losing money on every year. So we can skip ahead here. And I think one of the coolest programs that we've really started working with, as well as probably the simplest, is just recognizing those areas. So what this shows here is some work that I got Justin to help me with a few years ago. The maps there show a field of rented land actually, and all the red areas were a bit lower, had some salinity issues. It was hard to get in there to seed those. They wouldn't be ready when the rest of the field was ready. And we were actually thinking about giving this piece of land up because it was just too much hassle. But then we looked at these maps and we did 5 years worth of yield, and we took the gross income out of all these zones and we compared them, and we realized in that red area we were losing, with all the cost ins, we were losing on average $70 an acre. And the blue represents what that entire field was averaging across those 5 years. It was still averaging a $50 an acre profit with all the costs counted in, even though that 20% of the field was losing $70 an acre. So we looked at the math and said, okay, if we can remove that area that's losing $70 an acre, we'd actually not only increase the revenue that we would have, so we're now getting $74 an acre across the whole farm and just farming the best areas. And then what we're doing with these areas is actually planting them down to hay or something that can grow better in that area. And so now these areas in hay are actually producing a positive return over the cost of the rent, maybe $70, $80 an acre worth of hay. And so it's making life simpler by not having to farm those poor areas, and maybe they can be reclaimed at a later date. But it's also putting more money in our pockets and is a lot more sustainable. So we can jump ahead from there. So just getting back to the sulfur and variable rate on that side, one thing that we've done quite a bit with is just apply sulfur with our VR programs, just basically based on nutrient removal and the different yield potentials in different zones. So say instead of putting 220 pounds across the entire field, we might put 270 or 300 pounds in the best areas that are going to be growing higher yields and removing more. And in those lower areas or lower yield potential areas that are producing less yield and removing less nutrients and sulfur, we would put, say, 170 pounds or something like that. So we'd put kind of that average rate in the middle, and using the same amount of sulfur on the field, more or less, we're just reallocating more into the areas that can use it and have the highest yield potential, and a little bit less in the areas that are lower yield potential. Very simple approach, but also makes a lot of sense in our minds. So I think we can skip ahead from there. And yeah, so that's kind of the summary of some stuff. We really enjoy doing what we do and working within the community and different things like Elston's Give a Shirt project, a couple of photos from that with the kids, and that's kind of one of the things that we love about agriculture and the things that we can do to give back and be a part of that. And I think if we skipped, I think we're getting to the last slide here, is just picture of my kids and just really enjoy being a part of this. And I guess the last thing on the agenda here is to share a little bit of story why it was so cool growing up with Dan. And a little bit earlier on the call here, there was some talk of reviving Battle Axe, Dan's first attempt at becoming a famous musician. And Dan in school, in the high school days when we were growing up, he was a very creative guy, a little bit of a rebellious guy, long hair, leather jackets, heavy metal, that kind of stuff. And so he kind of made it pretty easy for me growing up because most of the attention was on him. And I just remember in the days when he got the band going, he was a pretty wild guy, living the rock and roll dream. And I remember coming home after school and hearing the guitar and the music just cranked right up to the nines downstairs, and came down there, and Dan's no shirt, jeans, playing his guitar, shaking his long hair around, jumping up and down on the couch, like just pouring with sweat, rocking out this rock and roll. And it was fairly entertaining. But that's where Dan's original passion for music and creativity came from. And it was interesting back in the old Battle Axe days. So that's how cool it was to grow up with Dan.
That's a great story. Slightly embarrassing, but we all got to get humbled here. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of Tom Cruise in Risky Business, except I could actually play. But yeah, that's been a really cool part of my life, and it was a good opportunity to play in a band with you and other friends. And if anybody's watching my social media feed, there's like actually a belt buckle that surfaced with me and my old bandmates, Ian Nervous, Lindsay Hertline, and Guy Perrin. In our graduation year with our photo on it that a girl from school posted, and the comments were pretty interesting, and it's really interesting to think about those days. But the music is still alive. We actually played at Terry's Field Day not too long ago. That was really fun, and I think it was myself and Terry on drums and our good friend Kim Kerbershane on bass, and then I believe Warren Bills actually got up and played guitar with us too, which is just a great show of bravado, given he couldn't really read the music and didn't know exactly what was going on, but he had the rock and roll spirit, so that's fun. So yeah, it's been fun doing different things with Terry growing up and watching his career path and what he's built in the business, and how he inspires people and what he's built. So it's really cool. I really appreciate you coming on, Terry. I think that's where we'll wrap it up today. And thanks to everybody for listening. And I hope as we publish this to the webinar, to the internet, that everybody gets value out of the work that Terry's done. And I think there's some really powerful things, right from the elemental sulfur piece to the management of fertility, to the data management, the weather component is really interesting. The variable rate's very cool. I especially like the component where you're watching your negative margins in those areas. And I think it's just a great blend of technology, common sense, and diligence and work and innovation that's made you somebody that people in the industry watch, and I'm really, really proud of you and Eberhard Farms. And it's based, our success in Eberhard Ag has definitely been based on everything that Terry and Harvey have done to date, and everybody else in the AgriTrade network that we work with on it, and other agronomists. So let's leave it at that. Thanks everybody for attending. Thanks Terry for sharing with us. I know you're a busy guy, and we're gonna see you guys at Farm Forum event. So I don't know that there'll be a webinar next week, but based on our schedule. But thanks Terry for coming on.
Thanks guys. Have a great day.
All right. Take care everybody. Bye for now.